mental health provider, and let's talk about the difference between Black people taking other Black people down, okay? Because that's the story right now. And what we are also talking about is how to protect the providers who are providing the services to the general public. And also, I'm really big on providing protection of the integrity of the field. And so, if you are new here, my name is Dr. TK, licensed clinical psychologist, therapist, business mentor, and I'm now going to add advocate for mental health provider because every single month we are focused on Mental Health Awareness Month, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and all these things. But, why don't we have a dedicated time and space for the actual provider? And so, in today's podcast episode, this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about, and it's called Clout versus clinical hours. And so head over to the chat box. Let me know where y'all tapping in from. I would love to connect with you. And, if you are new to my channel, I've been doing these educational videos related to mental health and things that have been happening in the online space. And of course, another video dropped. And so we got something to talk about. All right. So hello. It's been a while. And yes, I'm glad that you caught a live too. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen so that we can talk about some things. And we're going to have a grand old time. Okay, cool. And went ahead and went into the layout. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about clout versus clinical hours. Let's talk about public trust, professional accountability, and of course, the mental health field. All right. So I want to be very clear before we get into this. Like I said before, this was something that came about as I was just scrolling through my feed like everybody else and saw the magic of a red carpet event and just some things that were said. And so I want to be clear. I always give disclaimers. This conversation today, it is nowhere near any type of level of jealousy. It's not about taking another Black woman down, right? But this conversation is about public trust. Okay. And so we will be covering professional accountability and what that looks like for the general public and for providers, healers, anyone who works with people. We will be talking about what it looks like when we as providers or anybody in the public eye who makes a mistake or we should be learning something, right? How should we, air quotes, take accountability? And then also we'll be talking about our biggest issue, meaning in the mental health field, conversations that have been happening behind closed doors, which is what is the real impact about misrepresentation that can have a community domino effect around trust? Because let's be real, before 2020, a lot of people were still distrustful of providing or getting services from the mental health field. And then, of course, when 2020 happened, and then there became a big burst of individuals realizing mental health is actually great. And people started to remove all of those barriers. Some things that are done in the public eye by one or a few people, okay, because it's not just one that we're talking about, they can set us back years, if not decades, okay? So the statement that is being sparked, if you have not been watching the online space news, is that there was a recent red carpet response, okay, from a simple question, okay? And the suggested comments was that the community, Black people, should stop focusing on taking other Black people down. That's pretty much what I got a gist of watching it like twice, okay? So what that read for me and other people that I talked to was that this particular response pretty much framed the ongoing conversation in terms of like whoever talks about this topic and whoever calls out this topic, they're coming from a place of jealousy and envy. In so many words, in like a couple of lines, that's what was said. The words jealousy and envious, okay? No accountability. So the question being raised was essentially, why are people still talking about this? That's what stemmed the conversation on the red carpet. And my answer to that, as a licensed clinical psychologist and someone who cares about how people perceive mental health and services through coaching and all the other avenues, is that this has continued to stay in the news cycle because there has not been any clear accountability. And I'm going to add, which is why I'm here, education to help people continue to understand, because I'm only one person that can reach billions of people. So I want other people to speak up as well. How do people find proper care? How do we know that something should be private and should not? who should we trust with our information, and maybe who should we have guardrails and boundaries around, right? So this is not a gossip conversation, even though I know y'all coming here for this tea, but we're going to talk about mental health education tea. Okay. So this is not a gossip conversation. This is a educational conversation. And my goal as an educator, I've been a college professor for over 18 years. I now teach therapists how to have various streams of income, even within their private practice and one-on-one therapy. But I take things that look complex and I break it down very simple. And it seems like y'all like that, which is why I keep coming back with these slides. Okay. So my goal here is to simplify what might be complex, or it's something that we may read too deep into, and to really find the missing gap. That's really what I'm good at. And that's what makes me really good in my business and as a psychologist, because people see maybe what the triggering event is. They see how they feel, how they behave right now, but they don't see the missing gap. Okay. And when the public does not know what the missing gap is, which is just, mental health education, I believe that it is our role as providers to supply the public and our counterparts with basic information to help you be able to understand your rights and mental health, and to better understand an issue. Okay. So let's talk about the missing gap. Let's get straight to the point. Okay. So who is protecting the field? That's first off what I see as the missing gap, because if providers are not protected, if the mental health practice is not protected, individuals are going to have to rely on what? Just watching a podcast. Podcasts are great. I have one. However, that's not going to fix your whole life. We need sometimes someone to walk us through processing the hurt, the pain, the situation, or we are able to be preventative and focus on what's in the future. But if the goal was really to get to the root of the problem, okay, the conversation, at least for this particular topic, to me, should be, let's talk about the role that Black marriage and family therapists play in the community. We got all different titles: social workers, Black psychologists, Black service providers, which can be holistic, it could be coaching, it could be pastors, ministers, it could be school counselors, whoever serves other people, Black mental health providers, Black individuals providing healing, wellness practices, or coaching spaces. And so this is who I think about when we are watching these types of reaction videos, right? And these individuals, if they care about protecting, meaning providers, if we care about protecting our field, we really look at when there is a mistake or correction that needs to be made. We look at, well, where's the accountability, especially if we know we ain't gonna get the truth. Can you at least be accountable? You know what I'm saying? So accountability could have, if we look at this from a clinical problem solving decision tree situation, accountability could have reduced a lot of the residual fire. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So people and providers are not just looking for receipts. We ain't searching the dissertation. We know we ain't gonna find it. Okay. We are looking for things that we still may not be able to get, but these are what's come up. I want people of the person to acknowledge, I misspoke. I didn't know how to answer the question. I was wrong. You know what? I should have clarified in more detail. You know what? I understand how what I said might impact the way that others see the possibilities of mental health services. Put a one in the comment box if y'all would agree. Something like this. I'm not saying it would have wiped out the situation, but I believe it would have reduced the fire. I believe that pain is temporary, and something doesn't have to happen or last multiple news cycles unless you keep talking, right? So a lot of people in the community were talking about, and I read all these comments, like deflection. Deflection creates more mistrust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go online. I'm just going to go to Google. I ain't going to go to Chat or Clout. I'm just going to say, what is the definition of deflection? Let's just say you read something. You were like, what is that? Right? So deflection is a deviation or turning aside from a straight course. In everyday language, it refers to a psychological or conversational tactic where a person redirects blame, criticism, or focus away from themselves onto someone or something else to avoid accountability. Does that make sense? That is a simple definition of deflection. So now that we know what deflection means, okay, deflection creates more mistrust. Okay. So think about it. When questions are raised about people's degrees, dissertation status, licensure to practice, clinical work, or titles, the doctor versus just, I got a trademark. Okay. Defensiveness makes the public ask more questions. So I'm giving you, if somebody were seeing me in therapy and they like, how can I, this is me and I need to put out these fires. I would say, okay, if you are responding the way that you just told me, it may come off defensive. You want to talk about it? Right? Like we would talk about why it sounds defensive, even if that was not their intent. Okay. Second thing we want to consider, if someone says, I'm a doctor, and people challenge that multiple times, the issue could be corrected with clear language. Now, we all know that we should not be calling ourselves doctor if we are no doctor, but then we could talk about rappers and all those kind of things. We're not going to go there because the context in which doctor was represented initially was not as a trademark. It was as a name to attach to services. And that's where we as doctors actually have a problem. Because if it was presented as, oh, this is my trademark, this, I pay for this. Okay, whatever. But that's not the way it was presented. Okay. When we look at a trademark, I'm not a legal attorney. I'm not a trademark attorney at all. But a trademark connected to the word doctor, it could simply be explained just as literally that. I have a trademark for a doctor. Now you can question somebody all day long and they could just shut down the conversation. At least we know what it was. Okay. So questions about a dissertation process could be clarified. If you finished it or not, or it was difficult, life happened, people have kids. I'm not saying that she has kids, but I'm just saying people are able to explain why they did not finish something. And I think that sometimes our ego and pride gets in the way. I don't know her situation, but some people's pride and ego gets in the way and they say, well, I don't need to explain nothing to nobody. Okay, well, that's fine. You're just going to keep getting this fire though. You feel me? And so it's not because someone owes the public every detail of their life. I want to be clear about that, right? But it's because the issue has become public and the person has been representing an industry. And that within itself is the bigger problem. It is the connection with a real area in life, in an industry, in the health field, where you have been perceived as a doctor in that field. And that's where we have the uproar with people saying, if you ain't earned it, don't claim it. Don't even use the language. It's actually illegal. Okay. So this is another topic that I've seen talked about, not all traffic, publicity is like good traffic, good eyes, on your stuff. But some people would beg to differ and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. So this situation, I'm very sure, has increased followers to anybody who even talks about it, right? It will increase views. Why? Because people like to follow trends. They want to get the tea. Let's talk about this from a brand perspective and an integrity perspective. Integral. I did a whole video on that. Ethics and integrity, right? Because integrity ain't gonna make you go to jail. It ain't go, you ain't gonna get a life sentence, but it's about how you want to be known, seen, and trusted in the world. Okay. So if I realize, let's just say me, right? If I realize that something I said impacted not just me, but a industry connected to who I'm representing, for me, it would be service providers or therapists. And especially a deeper level, my own people, AKA Black providers, I would immediately want to repair the damage. That's me being integral, right? So this is really about someone recognizing how what they have done impacts a ripple effect of individuals, providers, and the public over and over again. Okay. So trust in the Black community is nothing new. Okay. We already have, if you identify as Black, African American, we already have ingrained trust issues. Okay. For hundreds of years. Okay. Not just only with each other. That's another whole little situation, right? We ain't doing the psychology of the Black culture because we have a trust of one another. But on top of that, we have a trust, as we know, with the general society. So if you think about this situation, because that's how those of us who are speaking out, we look at things, I believe, from an organizational standpoint. where we're looking at it in levels, right? So this particular situation, it adds to the existing pot of some of the reasons why some people may not further trust service providers or learn not how to trust them again. Okay. Because they may have learned how to trust them over time. Like I said, maybe after 2020, maybe after they've received good mental health services, good counseling, good coaching, whatever the case may be. But then some situations may set somebody back. Okay. Because maybe they identify with the recipients of individuals who may be brought up in the public eye. Okay. So we as Black people, I'm Black, so I'm speaking for the Black people. Okay. We already have a stigma around mental health. We have a stigma around reaching for resources, even outside of what some of us may, say the church. Okay. We already have people suffering in silence. That's just not Black people. That's everybody. Every culture has a subset of people that are suffering in silence for various reasons. Okay. So when providers or public facing experts, whatever they call themselves, misrepresent the field of what services, confidentiality, privacy should look like, it creates additional harm. Would you agree? Super simple to understand if somebody takes a step back. So another overarching area in this problem, right, is that some may disagree, but this is my professional opinion because I talk to Black people all the time. So something like this can make us step back 10 steps and beyond. So think about it. Let's just say a celebrity or someone of high status, which we've seen that happen, right, wants to seek out a service provider of some sort. It doesn't matter if they're a coach, wellness provider, counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, right? But let's just say they seek out a provider who already, we know it, is in those circles that they are called on for, the TV shows and things like that. There are literally pockets of circles that once you enter it, your name is passed around. I know it, I've lived it, okay? And so because those individuals have status, maybe these celebrity or high status people, because of certain things that just keep coming out, not just with her, but other people as well, what is the likelihood that now they may pause before seeking support? And that's a big aha moment when I was sitting down thinking about this. It's the actual pause that is actually a problem. Because before certain circumstances may hit the news wave, people may be like, hey, you got a therapist? Let me hit up the therapist or whatever. Like they're open to it. But at first they weren't. So it went from, I don't want to talk to nobody, to I'm going to do a warm handoff referral. I will only see therapists that my friends saw. Okay, that's fine. To now I'm open. I'm receptive. Everybody should have a mental health provider. We see celebrities and people with big statuses do that online. But then when a situation happens where it's like, oh my gosh, can I even trust these people that are on TV? Even though we were on TV, unless we were on a TV show, I didn't give you permission to just drip my name talking about I got into your DM, right? So because we don't know enough information, some people may choose to pause just because they don't even know if their information will be leaked, AKA beyond privacy. So this pause alone, like I said, is a problem. And if people are continuing to feel more unsafe, it will send massive messages to the general public because people with celebrity status, they have pull. All it takes is one to actually speak up. One. Okay. So this is also, let me be clear, bigger about just the one person. That's why I say they. Okay. I'm speaking up as within my professional role as a licensed clinical psychologist in California. I ain't nobody's therapist, right? Except for my clients. Okay. When I show up here on an educational page. Okay. But I'm speaking about this from my perspective because I'm African-American, I'm Black, I'm a psychologist that's licensed, and I'm from the state of California. And a lot of those check marks were aligned with the context in which this person was shown up online, as, okay. So people are now asking, what does it really take to become a licensed provider? Let me know in the comment box. Have you been asking yourself this question? Like, what does it really take for y'all to get licensed? Like, can anybody just do it? You feel me? All I got to do is buy a trademark. That's probably a question right now too. What is a dissertation? Make sure that you look on the bottom of this video. I've linked up the previous videos where me by myself or me and another psychologist broke these questions down. We even showed you how to vet a license. You just got to find the board in your state. Some people want to know, what does it take to get licensed, like all the hours. I went over that as well in another video. What is the difference between therapy and coaching? I went over that in a video. What do these titles actually mean? I went over that in a video. Okay. So a lot of people keep going back to this question: therapy versus coaching. Do you know the difference? So if we look over to the left, coaching is anyone who wants to be a coach technically can coach people based off of something that they've been through. It's called life experience. Also, it's included from your personal opinion. When someone goes into the coaching realm, they can be great for someone who wants to be helped based off their lived experience. So let's just say I'm a bonus mom, right? I can coach other people through being a bonus mom and not allowing situationships like, you know, just have me go ham. You know what I'm saying? Because it comes with pros and it comes with baggage. I don't like to say the word cons because ain't nothing bad about being a stepmom, right? But it comes with a little bit of chaos, a little bit. You feel me? And so the one thing you also want to know is when you're looking for a coach, you should know what you're looking for in terms of the problem that needs to be solved so that you could determine who's a good match. Now, on the flip side, when someone goes to therapy, you must know, or I want you to know, therapy is based on research, evidence, training of the provider. They have to operate in an ethical code, which means that somebody's held liable if somebody messes up, and licensure. This means that it excludes personal opinion. Now, it doesn't mean that the client and the therapist don't get to know each other, and we sometimes may self-disclose if it's appropriate to help someone see something in a different light. But we are not using words in therapy like I, right? Because that's what it seems to be when people are questioned online regarding this situation. Is like, I feel. And I'm just like, well, what happened to the general public that is watching this? Like, is the community not important anymore because they're calling out being accountable? Because that's what I saw in some comments that somebody else highlighted. Like this individual was only, to me, when I was looking at names and profiles, I thought it was interesting that they were only responding back to the public. They weren't responding back to other mental health providers. Isn't that interesting, right? So this situation revealed that many people did not know what the difference was between therapy and coaching. That was a highlight for mental health providers. Again, get on your P's and Q's and talk, okay? So if you are a person where you are offering coaching and as you're a mental health provider, I'm going to ask you as your due diligence. It is your job to assess the person who's seeking help. So let's just say for the public people, you are seeking coaching, and let's just say a therapist happens to also offer coaching in one particular area of expertise, but everything else is in therapy, right? So therapy, we're going to clear out your baggage. We're going to get you to function, right? Coaching is we're going to focus on the future. We'll collect history, but we're focused on you moving forward, right? We're not going to keep going back to your baggage, ideally. So as a mental health provider / coach, if you choose to do that, you should always have your mental health hat on. Why? Because the public doesn't know what the public doesn't know. If you in the public, let me know, right? Boris, okay? So the public does not know when sometimes they need mental health support first over coaching. I believe the public hopes that we do. And so it is the provider's responsibility to help clarify that and to honestly tell someone, hey, you actually would benefit better, and this is why, from therapy first, so that when you do coaching and you want to look at your future and career and all those things, whatever they want to focus on, we can actually focus on that and not keep going back to the chaos of the baggage, okay? So full circle, why representation matters, again, with a represented individual who looks like us and at one point was presented as us, has become a problem. Less than 10% of mental health providers in the United States, the whole country, is Black. Less than 10%. Less than 5%, when we look at titles, are psychologists that are Black. We're not even going to talk about psychiatry. They retiring, baby. Like less than 1% are Black. Okay. So representation matters. And if people are seeking someone within that cultural context to seek services from, and we are low already in number, that's already creating a barrier, right? Let alone trust. Okay. So these are the same titles that were thrown around online: provider, therapist, MFT, psychologist, right? And because these words were thrown around, people started to get very confused. And when these titles are misused or misunderstood by the receiver or whoever watching the podcast, it will, this is not my personal opinion, this is what we've seen online. It will impact the people who actually earned the degrees because of the ripple effect and the people who are supposed to receive services from the people who actually have the degree and credentials. Okay. So, like I said in the beginning, we're probably not going to get this. I'm not holding my breath, but I want to show you kind of like a session, if we were in a session, what accountability could sound like. This is where if I'm in a therapy session with a client and they don't know how to communicate effectively and they like, hey, help me, meaning they've invited me in to help them communicate, hands down, we're going to talk about what could be said, and then we're going to do some role playing so that I can correct them or help them process what's happening. Are you nervous of saying this? What's coming up? So this is what it could have sounded like. Okay. I want to extend an apology or a correction to individuals in the mental health field. I misspoke. I misled the public in how I describe my role as a doctor, etc. I understand that people may not have understood the difference between me as a coach and what an actual licensed provider can and cannot do. Okay. Now, this type of correction is not going to fix everything. But again, what it will acknowledge is accountability. And that's the one theme that I keep seeing as to actually why people keep talking about it, because they're like, she opened her mouth again when it was dying down and she still wasn't accountable. Okay. So, why I don't personally jump on every news cycle, if you've been around and you've seen some of the replays or live streams, I will, if you're looking for a post from me, it will not come out immediately. Okay. I just want to let y'all know that I am very strategic with how I'm choosing to present information. I am often delayed with talking about these things. One, because I want to do my homework. And the biggest thing is I always want to revert back to how can this be educational for you? So these are some questions that I ask myself is what can I teach the general public about the mental health field? This is my gift back to y'all. How can I help the general public understand what are your options? How can I help people still feel safe about seeking services? Can I revert you to go look at some of my YouTube interviews? We talk about business and we talk about mental health services. It depends on whose interview you watch, but at least you can see the diversification of what mental health looks like across the United States with different providers in different areas of expertise, even though I'm a business mentor. So yes, I ask them questions about their business. A lot of them are my clients, but listening to the interviews, you will get an understanding of, wow, there are so many different types of therapists everywhere. Okay. I also ask myself, how can I help repair potential damage to the stigma around mental health? So I know there's a lot of people as advocates for mental health itself. I am an advocate for the provider and mental health, but I will say I go hard for my own. Okay. So, like I said earlier, this is an educational channel. This is not gossip. This is not about my personal opinion. It definitely isn't about envious or jealousy, as I heard. What I do here is I intertwine my role as a licensed clinical psychologist with psychoeducation, which means I'm educating you on psychology and areas within the nuances, okay, around mental health. And again, what your options are. Now, if you go to my channel, you will clearly see that there are various branches dedicated to therapists, dedicated to how I show that I practice what I preach and teach to therapy clients and to therapists. Yes, I post packing vlogs. Yes, I post Disney vlogs with my family or solo trips. Why? Because I need therapists to have a whole life. I need them to believe that they deserve abundance too, because they teach other people how to live these beautiful lives. So why can't they live these lives, right? Therapists deserve ethical businesses and to be able to make whatever amount of money they want to make to design the lifestyle that they want to have. Okay. So let me speak to the general public, if that is you. Okay. If you've enjoyed this information around psychoeducation and mental health, I'm definitely asking that you subscribe because you will get a lot from this channel. Okay. But this is my guarantee to you. As things come up in the media, I watch my energy. I'm definitely not talking as soon as it comes out because I need to decide if that is aligned with who I am and what my brand is and what I want to teach. I'm a teacher. Okay. So if it is related to destigmatizing mental health, correcting some things for mental health according to the board and the ethical code, because that doesn't has nothing to do with my personal opinion, you better believe you're gonna see me talk about it at least within 7 days, unless I'm out of town or something. Okay. So my goal is to help you better understand things like mental health resources, therapy versus coaching, how to build up trust so that you can find the resources that you need. Big on professional titles and the differences, licensure, but I've done all these videos already. And then also how to seek support safely. So if you look on the bottom of this video, it's not an exhaustive list, but it is a list of resources that you can start with for looking for mental health services. Okay. So continue to subscribe for psychoeducation, mental health resources, and all the things in between. Okay. So let me ask y'all, how did you enjoy on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, wow, this was educational. It was simple to understand. I'm glad that you, girl, addressed it. I know somebody said that earlier because that is what has been happening along with, I guess, the pastor with, I ain't going there because we'll be here for years. Okay. But I really wanted to speak to the whole Black people stop taking Black people down, because I was just like, well, that's a big deflection of the actual issue, which is there was a deception and a misrepresentation, even to podcast hosts. I hope that they will vet better of when people use certain frameworks or titles on these channels, that people will say, okay, if you're saying that you're a therapist in your bio, I don't see your license number. Podcast hosts, ask for the license number, right? If you choose to vet them and look at a website, do it. Especially if they're coming on talking to you, or even I'm going to challenge, I'm about to have a session on a podcast. What does a session on a podcast mean? Technically, you're not the client unless you signed up for services. Somebody may have signed up for the podcast, but when I and other therapists have said this under videos as well, they're in our language, meaning don't use our language if you're not in our field. It's not a session. And coaches use the word session, let me be clear. But that is not a session unless it's a one-off VIP session, I guess, and it's public. But again, if the podcast host was cool with that, what message does that send the public about what sessions look like? That's my biggest thing. It's the misconception. All right. So let me make some general announcements around what is going down, because it's still summer and these kids are out of school, right? So a couple of announcements. If you are a mental health provider, pay attention to the community tab or my Instagram at Dr. TK Psych. So if y'all not following me on Instagram, I do post a lot of psychoeducation over there, but it definitely is for business. Dr. TK Psych over there on Instagram. Give me a holla. You know what I'm saying? But if you're a mental health provider, we have a good amount of things coming up between now and the end of the year. Some will include live events, so pay attention. They're going to be now on the West Coast. We did our New York run. Okay. So pay attention, because some things are actually dropping in terms of information starting tomorrow to my email list and to social media and to YouTube. For our live events for therapists to the public, they are therapist events. I do want to say that, therapists who are in business. But for general psychoeducation, continue to stay tuned. And under these videos, if y'all have particular topics of conversations that you want me to address, I will review it first. And if it's appropriate to educate on YouTube, because I need to make sure that I'm not crossing a boundary line with ethics, because I'm not a therapist online. So I can't, answer somebody's personal question like, what you think? Or I don't know. I'm not like Power 106. I don't I don't do case studies of like people that just put a comment. All right. Because I need to understand you from an intake perspective, which means I got to ask you a whole lot of questions, and it will not be on YouTube. All right. So thank you so much for y'all tapping in. Pay attention to the announcements that will be dropping for business workshops in person and boot camps, hint, hint, therapists online, that will be taking place in June, August, and November. These live events and virtual events are definitely going to be happening during those months. And we will be having an event literally in about 10 days virtually. Okay. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. Subscribe to the channel, and y'all have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Bye.